I'm super excited to close out the conversations around Black women's equal pay day. And the genesis of this was to really help women think outside of the box. Now, there are certain stigmas that are in place, and we cannot necessarily change that overnight. But there are things that you can do to change what happens for you, to change your story. And some of those things revolve around you knowing who you are, knowing your worth, and being able to negotiate you deserve when you enter a room, when you are applying for a job, when you are negotiating for a contract. You want to make sure that you know who you are and you have the tools to be successful. And joining us, we have on the line Dr. Cheryl Woods. Hi, Dr. Cheryl.
How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you are on family vacation. I didn't even get there. And so she is taking time out of her day with her family at the beach to be able to empower you. And so I just want to not take that lightly and let you know that we greatly appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this conversation. I think it's such a critical conversation, and I am thrilled to be here as a part of it. Thank you.
So what would you say is the number one thing that people need to be mindful of? When I say people, Black women need to be mindful of when it comes to being able to negotiate and not just take the first deal that is offered to them?
I think just to remember that everything is always negotiable. Everything. Like, don't even hesitate to negotiate. You can never get what you don't ask for. You can never get what you don't request, that you don't try to put in the contract. They might say no, but the reality is they might say yes. So you owe it to yourself to realize that there is absolutely nothing that's off the table. It might seem like the smallest thing to you, but they might say yes, and that could be a huge win for you. So just don't discount the idea that anything is non-negotiable. I've seen people negotiate things and you'd be like, and for me, I had to learn that after the fact, because I would see someone else negotiate and get something that I didn't get, but I didn't get it because I didn't ask for it.
Now, why do you think that is? I'm hearing this, no, not just you, because it seems to be a consistent thread from when we started early this morning until late this evening, right? Where everyone has pretty much said, I didn't know, I didn't ask starting out. It was something that I witnessed, and then I realized, yo, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing myself a disservice. But is it something that we're programmed where we don't think that we should ask and we just take whatever is given to us? Like, what is it that we need to change? Because I not only wanted us to change it for ourselves, but how we're raising our children and the people who are watching us.
Yeah, definitely. I think two things for me. I think number one was my own mindset about my worth. And I don't feel like I came into my industry as a professional speaker and coach being taught that you need to be a savvy businesswoman who negotiates well. That wasn't at the top of the helm. That wasn't the thing that was being discussed, the conversation that was being had. The conversation, what I find from most women is, how do I serve more people? How do I touch the world? How do I impact lives? We talk so much about transforming lives, right? Yeah, we talk so much about transforming lives, and that is a part of it. But also on the opposite side of that is you being fiscally responsible in your industry or your career or your business. And being fiscally responsible means getting all of the benefits that you can possibly get. And that requires negotiation. And sometimes that negotiation means you might have to walk away from that offer if they're not willing to negotiate based on what your worth is. But I wasn't taught that coming into business. I learned that through trial and error. I learned that through seeing that, wow, people were undervaluing me because I came in the door undervaluing me, and that they never were going to offer me what I didn't ask for. So that was, it was a mindset shift, but also it was a shift in the dynamics of how I function as a businesswoman who understood that I have to also be fiscally responsible. That took time. And I think what I'd like to see is that more women in business to cut the learning curve for themselves and come straight in the door, being willing to and knowing that they should negotiate.
Now, Okay, can you tell us that first time that you said, you know what, I'm about to do this? Like, I'm not getting paid pennies anymore to come talk just because I love it. I know the value that I am bringing because that's our problem. And I can be real, it was my problem too.
Yep.
Because I'm so passionate about what I do, because I love just helping people and I love just sharing information, that I wouldn't always come to the table like, yo, yes, my starting salary, yeah, you need to at least pay me 5,000 if you want me to talk for an hour. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that at first. You know what I mean? Because it was
Yep.
just like, oh yeah, I don't mind just talking to your group of people. But for you, what was that breakthrough moment when you said, not today? Mm-mm.
Well, for me, it was when someone, a company had called me about hiring me to speak. And we were in this great conversation, this great dialogue, and I was functioning just like I always do. And I already in my mind am thinking of a number that they're probably going to pay me. So that was my first mistake. You never want
What was
to,
that number that you put in your mind?
for
Full
my
transparency.
oh, for me, at the time, based on where I was like, oh, they're probably not going to pay me more than about 3,000, 3,500.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably 3 years into my speaking business.
Okay.
And I remember having the conversation, and then we got to the money part, and the woman who was having the conversation said, yeah, well, we're hoping that we can get you for under 10, because we can't seem to find another speaker. We can't seem to find any speaker who will do it for less than 10. So two things that taught me was, number one, I was way, way, way devaluing my expertise and how other people saw me and saw my credibility. And number two, it was, wow, she opened my eyes up to what I should be charging, because if she said, oh, as long as we can pay you less than 10, that meant you could pay me 9,999, because that's less
Or
than
you
10.
can pay me 10.
Right? And that was a whole lot bigger than my number in my mind of 3,500. So it was a shift. That was a shift in my business at that time. Like, wow, I really have to look at and revisit my money conversation, why I am devaluing myself based on what's in the marketplace, and also being willing to go and really do my research, my due diligence on what the marketplace was paying other speakers based on the value that I was bringing into the marketplace. So it was an eye-opening conversation for me. And nonetheless, I did get almost right at 10 grand for that event.
Yes. Now, earlier today, we've been talking a lot about confidence. But the thing that I'm hearing right now is that it's beyond confidence. It's the relationship women have with it's the relationship Black women have with money.
Yeah. It is our money conversation. And it goes way back to, for many of us, how we were brought up. So for me, I was born into poverty. I mean, I grew up in an inner city housing project in Baltimore, Maryland. And, my mother was raising 3 kids on her own. She worked every day. She was the manager of a school cafeteria for Baltimore City Public Schools for 25 years. And yet we still were so beneath the poverty line that we had to be on government assistance. So I remember my mother used to have to, as they say, rob Peter to pay Paul. And I remember she would have to make decisions. Okay, am I going to pay the full light bill this month? Or am I going to pay half or a portion of it and ask for an extension so I could put food on the table? That was the money conversation I grew up hearing. And as I grew up and became an adult, this is the honest truth. I felt like I became addicted to financial struggle. And the reason I felt that way is because I saw my mother do it so well. I saw her with such grace be able to take one small check and divvy it up into 10 places and be proud of herself for that. So I grew up with that mentality that, wow, if you stretch the dollar and you're able to pay this person a little and pay that, and you don't get stuff turned off, you doing good. Well, I didn't want to have that money conversation as an adult. I wanted to change the conversation, because if I change it for myself, then like you said, I pass that down. That's legacy now. I'm breaking those barriers. I'm pressing through things that my mother didn't even know. And now I'm creating something different for my children to look at. And so I really had to become aware that, yep, I was addicted to financial struggle, just like my mother was. Like when I would be able to pay a whole bunch of stuff and have just a couple dollars left to make it over to the next paycheck when I still had a corporate job, it was a sense of pride. It wasn't a sense of, oh my God, I got to change things. And that didn't happen until I came into business. And I started seeing what other women of other races were generating. And I'm like, wait a minute. What? You're generating how much in your business? $2 million. And you only been in business for how long? When I started changing my circle and my environment and really paying attention to what other people were making, I was like, oh, I got to play a different game. And that was the start for me.
And how did you change that game? What did you start
I
doing
started, number one, I started changing my internal dialogue. So I really started talking to myself differently about what I was capable of. And I know we hear that all the time, and it kind of sounds sometimes like a little cliche-ish and maybe even a little silly, like, oh, you can't talk yourself into greatness and you can't talk yourself into wealth. Baby, let me tell you, yes, you can. Because I started waking up every day. And again, I worked in corporate America for 15 years as a legal secretary. I did that because I knew how to do it. I was good at it. And I probably was making $75,000, $80,000 a year doing that. At the time before I had kids, I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't have no college degree. I came from the hood. So again, that dialogue, like, oh, I'm doing good. So the only way that I was able to shift it was by interrupting what I was normally thinking. And so I started going to the library, and I would get these books about affirmations and positivity and mindset and belief and having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset about who you can become regardless of what your past is. And so I remember I went on this little kind of journey, if you will, for about 6 months. And I was saying this mantra, and I would wake up, and before I got out of the bed, I would just say, Cheryl, you're a magnet for wealth. You're a magnet for success. You're a magnet for all great things, for abundance and prosperity. And somebody somewhere in the world is waiting to pay you for what you know. Now, the first 4 months that I said it, I laughed every day that I said it. You know why? Because my reality was not reflective of the mantras that I was speaking into my life. But the reality, what was happening was that my subconscious mind was changing, because the more you tell yourself something, the more you believe it. So even though I didn't even know that that was being embedded in me as a belief that would then dictate my actions, it was. So I'd say about 6 months in, one day I said the mantra, Cheryl, you're a magnet for success. You're a magnet for wealth. You're a magnet for abundance and prosperity. Somebody somewhere in the world is waiting to pay you for what you know. I didn't laugh. I didn't snickle. I didn't dismiss it. Instead, I had a rebuttal for it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can. Maybe I can be wealthy. Maybe I can be successful. Maybe somebody in the world is waiting to pay me for what I know. Like, it shocked me that I felt that way. But that is literally, those are the seeds I was planting over those past 6 months. And then when you start to believe something, that's when your actions start to align with the beliefs. So then I started going to networking events, and I started being around other people who were already in that mindset of making money, in that mindset of charging what they were worth. They didn't give me no breaks. They didn't say, well, you seem real nice as a business owner, so we're going to discount this service for you or discount this networking event for you. No, they were standing fully in their power to charge what they were worth. And that, having someone modeling that, was huge for me. So that's how I started interrupting it. It was through my own conversation and internal dialogue, and then getting around people who were already walking the talk so that I could see what that looked like in real time.
And so when you did it for the first time, because you had been retraining the way that you were thinking, was it shocking to you? Because I know some people who are like, they put that number out there, and when you slide it in the email, you're not as like, you ain't gotta say it. It's just being emailed like in this proposal. But if you actually said it, were you able that very first time to stand firm in it and to say it with confidence and to own it, where it was received and they were just like, okay, like how what was that reality like for you?
I'll answer that with this: heck to the no. I was so nervous when I finally set my speaker fee at a fee that really I should have been charging, right? So at the time, let's say, $5,000, $3,000, I for me, for years, I was doing stuff for free. And then secondly, when I finally stopped doing it for free, I was still charging like $500, $1,000. I really wasn't maximizing the ability that I had and the transformation that I was creating in people's lives by being on that stage and speaking into their lives. So I remember the first few times I said it, I literally like backpedaled off of my own fee. So I was like, oh, so we get to the conversation like, oh, so what is your fee? And first I would try to put the ball back in their court. And I was like,
Like, what's
well,
your budget?
what's your budget? You know how we do, girl. I put it right back on them. Oh, well, just tell me what your budget is. And they were like, no, we just want to know what your fee is. So I had to say something. And so I said the number, and first it was 3,000. I was like, oh, my fee for a keynote is $3,000. And then here's the reality: I would get scared of silence, because to me, silence meant, oh my God, they're in shock, they're in awe. There's no way they're gonna pay me that. So then I would start backpedaling out of it. So I wouldn't hear anything. I would get scared, and I'd be like, but, if that's not in your budget, I've worked with other companies, and you can pay me less than that. I'm talking myself out of my own ability to be able to get what I'm really worth. So I played that game for a long time. But here's the thing. At some point, you get tired of your bank account not being reflective of the level of high service that you're delivering to the world. When you put in time, energy, effort, you going to this event, you're traveling there, you're spending time away from your husband and your kids, you get tired of coming back home and you don't have a check that is reflective of what you've just done to serve the world. That was the real catalyst for me changing, because I think every woman, they say when a woman's fed up, ain't nothing you can do about it. I got fed up of being passionate but being broke.
No, that's real. That is real. Because when them bills got to get paid, ain't nobody calling you talking about, oh, you saving the world. They don't care. They want you to pay those bills.
And for me, having a spouse who is right there looking at how much time and energy and effort that you're putting in, and then you're like, oh, but I can't afford to do this, or babe, I can't afford to do that, and I can't buy this for us, and I can't get that for the kids. And he's like, well, wait a minute now, hold on, you had 5 speaking engagements this month. You had 5 speaking engagements. Did they not pay you? You not getting paid? Like, I don't understand why you saying you broke all the time. I'm like, babe, can I get a couple dollars? Babe, I gotta go to another speaking engagement. And then here I am repeating the cycle. Now I got 5 more speaking engagements that's not gonna pay me my worth. So now I'm gonna come back home and bring no value to my family. So it just got to a place where it was like, this is not what I call harmony. This is not what I call balance. This is not fair. And I cannot stay in this space.
Now, let me ask you this, because I will put myself out there and say that I oftentimes, and I think a lot of Black women feel this way, when you up the ante on your pricing, you often feel like you got to come with even more when you're delivering.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm not crazy. Like you be thinking like, oh my God, they're about to pay me $20,000 for this. Like, I gotta bring it. Like, I gotta do this. And you're thinking like you have to go above and beyond. And I will tell you, a friend of mine, saw a contract that she sent over. And I look at like, I'm paying for like this contract system that it's all fancy and nice. And, it's a portal that she sends a Word document. Nothing fancy. It was like, this is what you do. This is what I'm gonna do, and this is what I need to get paid.
Yep.
And I looked at it. I said, "That's what you sent Johnson and Johnson? Like, really?" And they approved it.
Right.
And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, the lesson she had learned was that when they see that you have all the bells and whistles and they, all this fancy stuff, they think that the money that they're paying you is going towards all of those things and not necessarily the work. And so for me, because I'm such I want everything to be packaged nicely, and I'm all about the delivery, the presentation, the experience. I'm an experienced person. I go above and beyond and make sure that if I set foot on your stage, if I set foot on anything that I am preparing for your people, that it's going to be an experience to remember. And then I learned from that was just like, they don't really care about all that. That's hard for me to swallow.
Right.
That is, I still haven't changed, how I present, because that's just me. But it made me realize that I think that we sometimes we're so caught up on overachieving and over producing.
Yeah.
That we sometimes we're just like, yo, I have to bring it And it's like, well, why can't I do the same delivery that I was doing for $3,500 where I just didn't know my worth and they would have thought that that was absolutely amazing, but I'm beating myself up thinking I have to do more. Have you experienced that? Do you think that? Like, what does that look like for you?
I am definitely of the belief of over delivering, because I think that's what makes you stand apart and that's what gets you rehired. She's right. I mean, and I think it depends on the organization that's hiring you. I mean, when I'm doing corporate engagements, you know, they don't require all the bells and whistles, but do I still deliver it? Yeah. Because number one, I'm a Black woman, and a Black woman has to show up different than a white woman. A Black woman has to show up different than an Asian woman. If we're going to not only get the gig one time, but get rebooked over and over and over again and be referred out to other people, I do feel like presentation is an important part of that. I just did a big speaking engagement for a corporation. I won't call out their name, but you know, it was a $12,000 gig that I did from my living room in my pajamas. Well, I was in my pajamas from the waist down, and it was easy. It was a webinar, $12,000, and it's like they didn't require all the bells and whistles, but I delivered the bells and whistles because I want to be memorable.
Your standard for excellence.
That's it. It's my standard for excellence. And I know that over the past 11 years in business, I've developed a certain reputation and a certain level of credibility. And that has come from me doing more than the average person would do. It's me going above and beyond what the average person. And that doesn't bother me. I don't mind doing that. Even if they only expect a piece of paper that's a Word document that has the number on it, I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to make sure my logo's there. I'm going to make sure there's some extra things.
Contact information.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to speak for NASA earlier this year, right before COVID happened in February. And I'm not going to NASA with some hokey dokey pokey stuff. Like, I'm showing up at NASA in all of my greatness and my brilliance and my glory as a Black woman, because number one, because it's reflective of who I am. But number two, because remember, you are also potentially opening the door for other Black women.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I show up in excellence, then that says to them, okay, we can hire a Black woman and get an amazing delivery and get some extra little perks too. You know, I didn't go above and be overboard, but I did make a very nice presentation. My PowerPoint deck was on point. It was professionally created. I had some little notepads and things with NASA on it, the logo. Like, I did go a little above because I wanted to be remembered and I want to be referred out to other people. And I want to create the door of opportunity for other Black women.
And so this is going to be our last question, because I don't want to take you away from your family on your vacation. What are some things that we can do to prepare us mentally? Because I think that we have a lot of mental blockage that comes into play when we are competing, right? When we are in a place of, oh, you just got this job, or you're potentially working for this opportunity and you don't necessarily know how to negotiate. You just take whatever is given to you because you're scared, right? Yeah. A lot of times it's, like I said earlier, it's that mentality of, I got in the room, I got it, I got the gig, oh, let's go. Like, I'm happy. You know, you rejoicing over that, not knowing if that same job was offered to a white person, they're negotiating.
Yep.
They're not taking that first number that's written on that piece of paper on your offer letter. It's negotiation time.
Yep.
So what are some things that we should be mindful of to prepare ourselves to go into negotiations?
I would say number one, get some wise counsel in your life. And when I say wise counsel, I mean women, other women, Black women who look like you, who are already where you want to be, and be willing to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. I feel like a lot of times we have pretenses that we know it all. We put on these pretenses that I know exactly what to do and how to do it, and you don't know nothing. You just guessing and playing a guessing game and hoping that you're playing it right, when most times you're not playing it right. So why not reach out to wise counsel? And it could be someone who is a mentor. It could be someone who has been a coach. It could be someone who just you see doing what you want to do. But I think, number one, we have to be willing to reach out. But then number two, as Black women, we got to be more open to helping another Black woman. Mm-hmm. Like, don't be so, there's sometimes I have asked people to be a part of just something as simple as a virtual event. And when they give me, you know what, just for that, just to give me 15 minutes of their time or 20 minutes of their time. And I'm like, really? Is it that hard for one sister to support another sister, one Black woman to support another Black woman, when you know that sometimes you have the potential to elevate someone else in their platform and where they're going? So I would say it's dual. We have to really be open as Black women to saying yes more to other Black women when they reach out to us for help and for support. So I would say start there. Number two, I would say really, really do as best as you can, do your due diligence. Is there any research that you can look up beforehand? Can you do your due diligence on what other people have bid on that contract and what they've actually solidified the contract for, or what that organization has typically paid other people? Anything that you can find out, do it. Research, go on the website, look for any press releases that have been put out, have conversations. If you can talk to the person who was the keynoter for the previous year, any conversations that you can have that will give you more information. Look at, especially for speakers, look at what the ticket price is for the event that's being hosted, whether it's a virtual event or whether it's a live event, because that's oftentimes going to dictate the level of speaker that they're going to bring in. If you have an organization, so I'll give a quick example. There's an organization that I go to their networking conference every year. I pay $4,000 to go to the conference. You hear what I'm saying? Not 400, 4,000. They get about 600 to 800 women who come. So you do the math of 600 times $4,000. That tells you the level of speaker that they're going to hire for that event, which means they got a budget. They have top-notch sponsors. They have influencers who are women, who are Black women, who are influencers. So they have the budget. So you really got to look at the behind the scenes of the company, what the event is, look at the ticket prices, and then go from there. So I would say those two keys. Really, really do your due diligence behind the scenes before you have the conversation with the decision maker. And also make sure that you tap into wise counsel and ask someone for help. Hey, I've never done this before. I don't even know what to ask them. Do you have any advice on what my starting number should be? Because I don't want to undercut and undersell myself.
Okay, I know I said that was the last question. This one's more of a personal about you. So are you familiar with Evan Carmichael?
No.
No? Okay. So he has this book called The One Word, something along those lines. And it's all about the one word that describes you at your core, who you are, what you're all about, your purpose, but in one word. What would you say your one word is?
I would say tenacious. Man, when I put my mind to something, ain't nothing that can stop me. Nothing, nobody. And even if I don't get it right the first time, like for years, I didn't get it right in speaking. Like I really was not charging what I should have been charging. But I did not give up. I'm like, oh, I'm coming back. I'm not going nowhere. Let me bounce back from this thing that hurt my feelings because I didn't get paid what I was worth. But let me bounce back stronger and more determined and with more tenacity than I've ever had before, so I can get it right. And I think that's the beautiful thing about being in this journey as a speaker, is that every day that I wake up and I have life and breath in my body, I have another opportunity to try to get it right. I have another opportunity to learn how to sell, how to negotiate, how to market, how to promote. All the things that oftentimes as Black women, especially, that we don't do so well in terms of our fiscal responsibility in business. So tenacious. I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to be here. Been here for 11 years, going to be here for another however many God allows me to have. I'm not going nowhere. It doesn't matter how many times I get it wrong. I'm going to keep coming back and doing it again until I get it right.
Yes, I love it. And thank you for dropping those scriptures. I was listening to those scriptures you was dropping, even though you ain't say what the things was, but take wise counsel,
Yes.
Writing down, what it is that you want. All of those different things are biblically based. So thank you for sharing your faith and your drive, your tenacity with us. It's so appreciated. And how can people get in contact with you?
You can follow me on IG and all social media platforms at Cheryl Empowers, and my website is CherylEmpowers.com.
Yay! Well, that is Cheryl, and thank you guys all for tuning in. I don't know why this audio is starting to mess up on me. Thank you guys for all tuning in and spending the day with us. We have done 6 amazing women sharing their story, sharing their journey. It has been absolutely phenomenal. I have enjoyed it. I've learned so much. I hope that you all have too. All of these will be available on our site, and then we're probably going to move them over to iamblack.org. If you're not familiar, definitely go there, check it out. We have some upcoming events. If you are not currently following me, definitely be sure to follow me. Follow Dr. Cheryl at Dr. No, it's not Dr. It's just Cheryl Empowered.
Yep.
On IG. So that is everything for today. Thank you again for taking your time away from your family. Tell them I said thank you for sharing you with us. We appreciated your time. And today again is Black Women's Equal Pay Day. It is the day that it would have taken us to receive the amount of pay that our same white male counterparts made last year to do the exact same job. So we are highlighting that throughout the course of the day. If you missed any of our earlier interviews, they are on my IG main page. And like I said, we will be moving this content over to iamblack.org. It has been my pleasure bringing this information to you. I hope that you found it rewarding and beneficial. We look forward to being with you and sharing more great content. Until next time, be blessed. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you soon. Bye, everybody.